She watched him freeze to save her child, and fell in love without saying a word. The last thing she expected was a man built like that. Captain Brennan Voss stepped off his shuttle at Outpost, fattening with nothing on his mind but calibrating a busted jump gate. He wasn't here to flirt with aliens or play diplomat. Just fix the tech, file the report, and get the hell back to orbit. But when the hatch hissed open and he saw who was waiting for him, a tall, violet-skinned woman with 4 arms, gold eyes, and a stare that could melt steel, he paused mid-step. Zelani, senior technician of the Zalari matriarchate, didn't even blink. She crossed 2 arms over her chest while the others typed into a datapad. "You're late," she said flatly, in perfect Terran standard. Brennan blinked. "Storms near the heliosphere fried half my nev. Nice to meet you too." She didn't offer a handshake. "I've read the biological briefings. Terran males aren't known for professional discipline or subtlety," he smirked. "We make up for it in other departments." She glanced him over one's shoulders like a freighter. Hull, dark stubble, and legs built for low-grav thrust mechanics. Her gaze flicked down, paused for just a second too long, then snapped back up. "Yes," she muttered, voice tightening. "I've read those reports too." The outpost was small, barely 3 rooms, half a com tower and one shared environmental core. Zelani had been working alone for 3 weeks already, and the sudden solar flare that hit them just hours after Brennan arrived wasn't in anyone's plan. Power dropped, comms crashed, temperature control barely held. Worst of all, the storm outside jammed every outbound signal. No one was coming for at least 72 hours. It would just be her and Brennan, alone, in a space not even big enough to pace in. She tried to keep it professional. Truly she did. Brennan, for his part, was surprisingly competent, smart, focused, funny in a slow, gruff kind of way. He made her laugh once. That was dangerous. On the second night, the heater failed. Zelani cursed in Zalari under her breath. Her thin uniform offered little insulation. Her skin, already glowing faintly from stress, was starting to pulse in irregular patterns. Brennan glanced at her, shrugged off his jacket, and handed it over. She hesitated. "I'll survive." "Not without heat you won't," he said. "Your lips are turning blue." "Our species doesn't share body heat," she said. He raised an eyebrow. "That's a shame. We're great at it." She tried to laugh it off, but the truth was ... She was cold, and he was warm, very warm. His heat seemed to pour off him in waves. By the 3rd hour she'd stopped pretending. She sat beside him on a single bunk, arms crossed tight. He shifted, letting their shoulders touch. He didn't move away. "My heart's a-racing." She whispered. "That normal?" he asked. "For stress or arousal?" she said. "Not sure which." He leaned closer. "Let's hope it's both." Zelani tried to recite thermal equations in her mind to calm herself. Instead, she found herself staring at his hands. Big, rough, calloused, made for building ... or gripping. Her breath caught when he looked down at her. "We're not built for this," she said. Brennan chuckled softly. "You mean emotionally or ... structurally?" "Biologically," she replied. "Your kind's ... proportions ... are excessive. It's unsafe." He didn't look away. "Want to run a field test?" For someone who had never broken protocol, never disobeyed the matriarchate, never even considered anything outside regulation, Zelani kissed him. It started as science, curiosity, field data. Then he deepened the kiss and she forgot what species she was. His hand slid over the smooth ridges of her lower arms, fingers exploring her back like he was memorizing every part of her. He smelled like copper and ozone and something male and powerful. Every part of him was solid, strong, huge in ways that made her legs tremble. They didn't sleep much that night. By morning, she lay curled against him, one hand tracing patterns across his chest. Her skin shimmered in soft pulses. "Zalari afterglow. I thought we weren't compatible," Brennan murmured, eyes half-lidded. She sighed. "We're not. This should not have worked, but it did." Her gold eyes met his. "Terrans are dangerously adaptable," he smirked. "You haven't seen anything yet," she laughed. "A real one this time." 3 days later, when rescue finally arrived, Zelani greeted her superiors with her usual poise. Except her voice faltered slightly when they asked about the human engineer. "He provided support," she said. The tech behind her coughed and muttered. "That's one way to put it." As Brennan stepped onto the shuttle, she touched his hand one last time, briefly 4 fingers to 5. "This never happened," she said. Brennan winked. "Sure, until it happens again." She didn't stop him, and she didn't stop thinking about him, especially at night, when her secondary hearts beat just a little too fast, and she wondered if maybe Terran mating protocols weren't so primitive after all. 3 weeks passed. That should have been enough time to forget a Terran's heat. It wasn't. Zelani tried everything. Cold showers, full work immersion, even recalibrating the plasma relays manually, which no Zalari technician did unless they were trying to distract themselves from very distracting thoughts. But nothing helped. Every time she sat too long, her mind drifted back to the human scent, his ridiculous shoulders, and the way he somehow made her laugh during a life-threatening heat failure. Matriarch, help her. She missed the sound of his boots on the outpost floor, and the worst part, her body hadn't reset. Zalari post-mating responses were supposed to fade in 4 days. 5, max. But here she was on day 22 with elevated pulse, irregular heat cycles, and a complete failure to meditate without visualizing Terran musculature in excruciating detail. This wasn't biology. This was a problem. So when another supply shuttle arrived weeks early and a familiar figure ducked beneath the hatch with a smirk and zero shame, her heart skipped. Brennan was back with a mission, he claimed. Engineering follow-up, he said, tossing his duffel down like he owned the place. And maybe I left my wrench here. You left it inside the med unit, she said flatly. Why would you store it there? He shrugged. Had my hands full, thought I'd come back and handle unfinished business. Zelani's jaw clenched. You were very thorough the first time he stepped closer, but not complete. That damn grin. Her instincts told her to walk away, call command, act like a proper Zalari scientist. Her biology said otherwise. I still maintain this is a mistake, she said, watching him scan the workbench like he belonged here. He picked up a hyperspanner, turned it thoughtfully in his hand. Funny. Mistake's the only thing I've been thinking about every day since I left. She crossed her arms. You are aware that Terran bonding chemicals, those inconvenient hormones of yours, don't exist in Zalari's species. He looked at her, really looked. Then what's got you twitching every time I'm near? Her skin shimmered. Damn it, I'm experiencing residual temperature effects. She lied. He stepped into her space just barely, close enough that she could feel the hum of his body. You're overheating, Zelani, he said. Lo, I can help regulate you. Human methods are overkill, she said. But she wasn't backing up. He leaned in. Then maybe your species should have evolved bigger. Tolerances. Her throat tightened. Everything about him was wrong. Too solid, too warm, too intense. Her kind mated through scent traces and nerve bonding, not this slow burn that clawed at her from the inside out. And yet, what happens? She whispered. If I bond with something I'm not built for. Brennan's voice dropped to a near growl. Then I'll make you stronger. That's what humans do. Her knees nearly gave out. Later that night, they didn't talk. There were no official logs, no telemetry, only soft breathing, skin pressed to skin, and her mind trying and failing to catalog all the ways Terrans were a biological anomaly, because the truth was, he fit in ways no simulation ever could have predicted. 4 arms tangled around him, 4. And still, he held her like she was delicate, like she was something precious. That was the most dangerous thing of all. He didn't just overwhelm her body, he undid her walls, and when she finally collapsed against him, trembling, pulsing with glow light, she realized something terrifying. She wasn't just curious anymore, she was attached. And Zelani had no protocol for that. Not yet. Asterisk wasn't normal. Peace wasn't Zalari, especially not after mating with a Terran who was far too well equipped for her own health. She sat up slowly, the thin alloy sheets tangled around her hips. Her skin still glowed faintly, postcoital resonance. The scanners would say, her matriarch would say it was shame. Her body said otherwise. Her body had opinions now. The human was shirtless at the console again, muttering about bypass fuses. No armor, just muscle, flexing casually. She hated how much she was watching. I was analyzing your chemistry last night, she said, trying to sound clinical. She failed. Your bonding secretion levels were elevated. He looked back, grinning like he'd won something. Yeah, he said. That tends to happen when someone wraps 4 limbs around you and purrs. I do not purr, she snapped. You vibrated. I was regulating. You regulated me into the war. Her skin flushed, deep purple. Brennan turned, resting, a hand on the frame. You okay? Zelani hesitated. She wanted to say yes, say it was just physical, but her secondary hearts had other plans. I shouldn't be, she admitted, but I am. That wiped the smirk off his face, replacing it with something far more dangerous, concern and tenderness. You're not just a science project to me, he said quietly. That stopped her. I didn't say you didn't have to. He stepped closer. You keep treating this like I'm running some experiment on your nervous system. I'm not used to. She gestured vaguely toward him. This, I was trained to resist emotional interference. Yeah, I was trained to install gravity drives, he said. Still figured out how to read you. She narrowed her eyes. Read me right now. You're afraid, he said, not of me. Of how much you don't want to let me go. Her stomach turned, because he was right. Back on Zalari Prime, mating wasn't romantic. It was strategic, efficient, temporary. This was dangerous. Her cells were still vibrating with residual Terran neurochemical trace signatures weeks after first contact. That shouldn't be possible. And yet, there he stood. A human who had scrambled her protocols, her hormones, and possibly her long-term life path with one infuriating smirk and the kind of body heat that could replace a fusion core. Tell me this is temporary, she said, voice strained. He didn't answer. Instead, Brennan walked up to her slowly, carefully, and cupped her lower left hand in his calloused fingers. I could lie, he said, but I don't do temporary. When someone makes me feel like this. Like what? Like I finally found someone who gets how weird I am. She laughed despite herself. You're more than weird, you're impossible. And yet, he said, drawing her in, here I am, still here. Still thinking about what you smell like when you're relaxed. Still dreaming about the way you said my name when I was her hand clamped over his mouth. Finish that sentence, and I'll mount your head on a trophy wall. He grinned behind her fingers. That's not a no. They kissed again, slower this time, less urgency, more knowing. And for the first time in her life, Zelani wasn't thinking about duty, or specious lines or what her people would say. She was thinking about him, the way he held her after, the way he made her feel seen. Whole Terrans weren't built to last, her people said. But this one was starting to feel like home. And that terrified her more than any storm in the galaxy. By the next cycle, she'd stopped pretending. Zelani didn't bother to cover up the afterglow anymore. Her skin shimmered like dusk on a nebula, soft pulses of violet and pink running across her arms and neck. On Zelari Prime, that kind of display would have been scandalous public proof of emotional compromise. Here, Brennan just looked at her, like she was the only star left in the galaxy. He handed her a mug of Terran coffee, black, bitter, far too strong. She hated it. She drank it anyway. Still tastes like rust, she muttered, taking a sip. He grinned over the rim of his own cup. Developed taste. She tilted her head, like me. He looked her over, slow and deliberate. Exactly like you, bit intense, sometimes too sharp. But once you've had it, he sipped again, eyes locked on hers. You stop wanting anything else. Her body betrayed her with another pulse of color. This was dangerous. Not the kisses, not the sex, not even the nights tangled together with too little sleep and too many limbs. That was simple. That was biology. But the way he talked to her, the way he listened, that was far more intimate than anything her species had ever trained her for, and it was starting to change her. Later that day, a message came through a signal, just enough to crackle into the outposts. Comes a check-in ping from a Zella resurvey ship. They were a few sectors out, but close enough to investigate if something seemed off. She should have responded. She didn't. Brennan noticed. You gonna ping M back? Zelani stared at the screen. Not yet. You okay? No, she admitted quietly. I'm not. I'm bonding with something that shouldn't be compatible emotionally, biologically, socially. You check every box I was raised to avoid. Brennan set his mug down and stepped closer. You ever think maybe that means your people just didn't know what they were missing? She didn't answer. He cupped her cheeks so gently it almost startled her. She didn't pull away. She leaned in. I used to think connection was about similarity, she said. Matching forms, matching functions. And now, he asked, now, I think she swallowed. It's about someone who makes you want to rewrite the protocols. He kissed her softly. No heat, no urgency, just honesty. And that was what finally broke her, because for all her training, all her control, Zelani wasn't strong enough to pretend anymore. She clung to him like gravity itself had shifted. Later, when she lay against his chest, her limbs draped over him like vines on ancient stone, she whispered, I haven't reported our union. Brennan ran his fingers through her hair. Because you think they'll separate us. Because I know they will. He was quiet for a moment. Then don't tell them. I'm Zelari. We live in a hive of observation. Secrets don't stay hidden. Then we build something outside their reach. Her hearts fluttered. Would do that. He nodded. I've fought for my life, my crew, my planet, but I've never fought for something that made me feel this whole. She blinked, trying not to tear up. Zelari didn't cry, not ever, but something about this Terran made even that feel like a possibility. Just promise me, she said. If they come for me, you won't let me go. His hand tightened around hers. I won't just hold on, he said. I'll fight your whole empire if I have to. She didn't laugh. She believed him, and that was scarier than anything. In deep space, because it meant this wasn't a mistake. It was love, and no protocol existed for what came next. Asterisk, the warning klaxon wasn't loud. It was worse, it was polite. A soft chime, a blinking red light, a quiet little sound that said, your world is about to fall apart, but we'll ease you in gently. Zelani's eyes snapped to the console. Incoming vessel, Zelari. She didn't move. She didn't breathe. Brennan leaned over her shoulder, reading the screen. That's your people, huh? She nodded once. Her skin had gone pale lavender, a hue he hadn't seen before. Not glowing, not warm, just cold. You didn't report our contact, he said slowly. No, she whispered, but the matriarch, it always checks up on personnel posted near human borders. Routine scan. They probably think I'm overdue for an inspection. You gonna tell M the truth? Zelani looked at him, at the man who'd kissed her like she mattered, who'd made her laugh when she hadn't even known she could, who had touched her like she wasn't just a four-armed anomaly but a woman. No, she said. You sure? She stepped back from the console. They'll scan the outpost, read the environmental logs. They'll know someone's here. Then, I guess I better make myself presentable. He turned, walking toward the bunk, grabbing his shirt like he was just getting ready to meet her co-workers. Brennan, she said. He stopped. You don't understand. They'll take me off-world, back to Prime. There won't be a second chance. He turned slowly, shirt in hand. Then I'll stop them. Don't be ridiculous, she snapped. This isn't some bar fight in a backwater station. These are matriarch enforcers. They don't negotiate, they separate. If they see you, if they sense anything, they'll report me for violation. Violation, he barked a laugh. Of what? Feeling something real. Of Zalari Genetic Code Protocol, Article 47. No interspecies binding with unstable reproductive risk. She clenched her jaw. That's what they'll call you, a risk. His expression shifted. Gone was the casual confidence. In its place a Terran Z, he said quietly. Risk is our love language. She couldn't laugh. Not now. Not when her pulse was pounding in her throat, her glands releasing panic for Romos, her instincts screaming at her to run, hide, forget him. But she didn't move. Instead, Brennan stepped forward, cupped her lower hands, both of them, and looked her dead in the eye. You tell me what to do, he said. I'll follow your lead. But if you want me to stay, if there's any part of you that wants to fight for this, just say the word. Her mouths opened. No sound came out then. Finally, they will not allow it. He leaned in. Then they'll have to come through me. The ship landed minutes later, all silent engines and righteous authority. The snow outside hissed into vapor under its thrusters. Zalani stood near the hatch, body tense, Brennan just behind her, radiating heat like a weapon. 3 Zalari stepped out, tall and silver-robed, faces masked in polished chrome. Her people, her past, her judges, technician Zalani, one of them said through the visor. Unscheduled check-in. Your station logs are inconsistent. Please explain. I experienced interference, she said. Solar anomalies. And the heat signatures inside. Another asked. They indicate dual respiration. Silence. Brennan stepped forward. I was sent for engineering support, he said, calm, controlled. The technician requested assistance. I responded. The lead enforcer turned. Unverified Terran presence in Zalari sovereign space is a breach of treaty. Yeah, Brennan said. Well, love tends to break things. That earned him 3 blasters pointed at his chest. Zalari moved faster than thought. She stepped between them, her hands raised. Stop, technician, the leader said. Stand down. No, she replied. I will not. I chose him. I bonded fully. You risk destabilizing your physiology. I feel better than I ever have. They paused, confused. Zalari didn't defend humans. They tolerated them, observed them, catalogued them. Not this. You will be extracted, the enforcer said. Colder now, and reconditioned. Brennan's fists clenched. Touch her, he said, and you'll see what human muscle density is really made for. The 2 sides stared each other down, her people with their rules and metal. Brennan with his scars and raw defiance, and Zalani, she stood taller. I won't leave him, she said. You're choosing exile, they warned. I'm choosing truth. Behind her, Brennan grinned. Told you, I'd fight your whole empire. The enforcers didn't reply. They turned, wordlessly, and boarded their ship. She expected them to return with chains. They didn't. Maybe the matriarchs knew better than to push a Terran in love, or maybe they were just too stunned to react. Either way, as the ship lifted off, Zalani turned to Brennan, shaking. You just risked interstellar conflict. He pulled her into his arms, grinning. You're worth it. And in that moment, under the dark sky and fading engines, she believed him. Fully, dangerously, completely. *Z, single quotes, Lani. We had never seen a Terran colony before, not like this. They arrived 3 rotations after the confrontation. No pursuit, no reprimand, just silence from the stars and a human freighter willing to carry one very defiant alien technician and her unstable Terran partner to a little patch of red soil and sky-blue forests. Eostri wasn't much. A farming colony, 1 hydro ridge, 4 domes, and a gravity field just low enough to make running feel like floating. Brennan called it a starter world. She called it safe. There were no sensors tracking her body chemistry, no matriarchal mind probes, no whispered warnings that her DNA was already showing signs of Terran contamination. Just open sky, a warm bed, and Brennan. Always Brennan. He built a shelter from scavenged outpost modules. It wasn't pretty, but it didn't need to be. It had walls, a roof, and a water purifier that only caught fire twice. Zalani contributed heat shielding, lighting strips, and a solar bed woven from Zalari's silk fiber that adapted to body temperature automatically. Fancy, Brennan said, climbing in beside her the first night. What's it do? Registers partners' metabolic rhythms, she murmured, and syncs them during rest. Zalari use it for mate pairing. He raised an eyebrow. You mean this bed's trying to chemically cuddle me? She smirked, curling into him. You're not resisting. I'm adaptable, he murmured, burying his face in her neck. They made love without urgency that night. No fear of being interrupted. No tension hanging above them. Just heat, curiosity, familiarity. He traced her arm crests slowly, learning how her skin changed temperature before she came. She learned that humans, despite lacking glow glands, radiated through the chest, especially when emotionally exposed. And Brennan, he ran hot when he said things like, "You're not a mistake, Z," or "You've wrecked me for any other kind of love. And most dangerously, I think I want to build something here, with you." That last one made her heart stutter. Build what? Exactly. He didn't say. He didn't need to. The next week she started feeling changes. Her body, once finely balanced between work and reproduction, began to shift. Subtle things, warmth behind the ribs, nausea in the morning, a strange need to smell Brennan's shirt. When he wasn't home, she ran the scans 3 times before accepting it. Pregnancy, hybrid-class, no. Zalari had ever carried a Terran child to term. It was considered impossible, or worse, improper. She stared at the monitor for hours. Then finally she told him. He didn't blink, didn't stammer, he just smiled. Yeah, he said softly. How many arms do you think it's gonna have? She laughed so hard she cried. You're not afraid? She asked later, curled beside him under starlight. He kissed her wrist. I'm terrified. But that's what makes it real. She pressed her forehead to his. We'll be hunted. Let him come. They'll call the child a defect. They'll call me worse. I don't know if I'm strong enough for this. You are. You always were. You just didn't have someone reminding you. Zalani didn't answer. She just pulled him closer. The colony kept its distance. They didn't ask questions. Brennan was liked quiet, competent, always fixing what was broken. And Zalani, she made crops grow faster, patched leaking roofs in minutes, and could weld without touching fire. Slowly, they stopped looking at her like an alien. They started looking at her like family. One afternoon, a child ran up to her and asked what her glow skin felt like. She let the girl touch her arm. The child squealed with delight. Later, Brennan found her sitting on the steps of their dome, hands resting over her belly. I didn't think I'd ever be accepted, she said. You weren't, he said, sitting beside her. You were chosen first by me, now by them. Zalani looked at him, and for the first time she saw not just her lover, not just the man who'd risked war for her, but the father of her future. She laid her head on his shoulder. No more matriarchs, no more protocols, just them, and the tiny heartbeat fluttering inside her that whispered, humanity always finds a way. Asterisk, the child was born under twin moons, no doctors, no labs, just Brennan's hands, trembling but steady, and Zalani's breathless voice guiding him through something neither of them were entirely prepared for, but somehow ready for all the same. She came out wailing loud, healthy, a little hybrid miracle with dusky violet skin and Brennan's stubborn jawline and 2 arms. Then 3, then 4. Zalani gasped. Brennan laughed through tears. Overachiever, already. They named her Kayla. The name meant Dawnstar in Zalari, and she was, because everything changed after that. The colony that had once watched Zalani with cautious respect now came bearing gifts, blankets, food, handmade toys. One old woman cried, while holding Kayla, whispering something about how love always finds a crack to grow in, like roots through stone. Zalani had never believed in Terran poetry. Until then, Brennan took to fatherhood like he took to engineering, confused, practical, and hopelessly overinvested. He built a hover cradle out of scrap. She modified it with quantum stabilizers. Kayla slept like a comet, burning bright, hard to hold, impossible to ignore at night. When the stars peeked through the dome's filters, Zalani would lie beside Brennan, her arm wrapped around him, their daughter sleeping nearby. She once whispered, "This isn't supposed to be possible." He kissed her shoulder. "Neither is surviving a solar flare in a half-frozen outpost. But here we are." She smiled. "Humans are illogical, completely and irresistible." He waggled his brows. "Say that louder." Years passed, and the matriarchate never came. Maybe they decided Zalani was lost. Maybe they watched and saw something they couldn't explain, a stable hybrid family thriving. Or maybe they just knew they couldn't stop what had started because love, once seeded, doesn't obey borders. Zalani never returned to her people, but every time she held her daughter, she felt generations shift beneath her skin. The first of her kind, Kayla grew strong, taller than Terrans, sharper than Zalari, a child made of science, sacrifice, and something far older than biology. Choice. Brennan once asked, late at night, "You ever miss your world?" She'd thought about it. The order, the control, the sterile certainty of Zalari Prime. Then she looked at the man beside her, tangled in sheets he couldn't fold right, and the tiny half-human girl drooling on his chest. And she said, no, because home wasn't a planet, it was a body beside hers, a voice that called her back when she doubted, a pair of hands that held her, even when the stars turned cold, and a child who proved that 2 species could defy everything they were told and build something better. She warned him her kind couldn't survive a human lover, but what neither of them knew then was he wouldn't just help her survive. He'd give her a reason to live. And when the history books finally recorded the first successful Zellarite Terran family, they didn't call it an accident or an anomaly. They called it exactly what it was.